But the example that I use in my book, The Battle for Your Brain, is the coming age of widespread neurotechnology. So we should unpack that a little bit first, and then it'll be clearer with examples about both what the positive benefits are for being able to access and change your brain, but also what the profound potential risks are of an era of brain transparency. So neurotechnology that I'm talking about is not the implant in your brain, even though that's also neurotechnology. It's about the rest of us. And so many people today wear sensors in their rings or in their smartwatches that pick up different biometric features of their body, and then AI is used to decode what that means. And increasingly, there are products on the market that embed sensors that pick up neural activity. So September 30th, Meta just in stores like Best Buy, if you have an appointment because it takes weeks to get one, you can pick up their new neural band. And so they have these augmented reality glasses together with a wristlet, which they've already said is likely to turn into a watch. And that wristlet picks up brain activity as it goes from your brain down your arm to your wrist, which means it's picking up peripheral nervous system activity, not stuff, centrally in your brain, but neurons that travel from your brain and signal to your hands to swipe or type or move, or like right now I'm moving my hands around. All of that is, can be picked up by the neural band. Or just this past week, Cognition, which is one of the augmented and virtual reality headsets, announced a new collaboration with Apple where the back of the Apple Pro Vision, the back strap, is being replaced by the back strap that Cognition has that's embedded with EEG sensors, electroencephalography sensors. And those sensors pick up central nervous system activity, which is, as you think, as you do anything, neurons are firing in your brain. Hundreds of thousands of neurons are firing at the same time, and they give off tiny electrical discharges that can be picked up at the surface level of your scalp through EEG. And the integration of the EEG backstrap together with the the VR allows lots of sensors to work together to be able to make inferences about where you want to navigate on the screen. What these two advances are picking up brain activity for purposes of neural interface, replacing your keyboard and your mouse as a way that you can navigate through augmented reality and virtual reality devices, so that instead of like having something on your face and then a mouse or a keyboard, you think about interacting with these devices instead. And that's cool in some ways, right? Which is you don't want to have to have these devices and then have something cumbersome in between you. But it means that we're increasingly training AI systems to decode brain activity. And then the more powerful those models become, because all of these devices learn you as you use them, and become increasingly more precise and powerful to be able to decode your brain activity. Suddenly the kind of one space that people thought they had for freedom, which was mental privacy, is collapsing. And from my perspective, that kind of space of pause, that space of reflection, the one space where you can be truly authentic and, form your capacity to have thoughts and to have unique thoughts and to have dissident thoughts, all that happens in your mind. And the ability to decode it means we need to start thinking about whether we need special rights around cognitive liberty that safeguard us in the workplace and education, vis-a-vis government surveillance and intervention, or just, kind of ordinary life. Like, do you need to know that you have security in your mental privacy in order to be a fully functioning human?
Right. Can you also you have some pretty stunning examples of very popular apps that people use that track them in ways that potentially they don't appreciate?
Which ones are you thinking about? I mean, just things like on your computer, like Zoom?
WhatsApp and Zoom.
Yeah. So do you mean with facial emotional recognition?
Yeah, just explain what that is.
Okay. So there was a paper that came out recently that really made me think about when did we cross the threshold of losing mental privacy? Because while my last book, The Battle for Your Brain, really focuses on the decoding of mental states from neurotechnology. Increasingly, AI is getting better and better at being able to decode all kinds of biometric signals, including the fact that there's so many different cameras that are trained on people's faces, that what can be done from inferences about just micro changes that you make on your face to decode mental states, and how that really aligns almost perfectly with brain states. Like, you can take a person's face, look at their brain activity, see the facial movements, and be able to decode a lot of what they're thinking and feeling. And so some of the examples that I give about how that can already be made possible, for example, is TikTok has all of these different facial scanning features that people have opted into that enable real-time scanning of what's happening with their face to be able to infer their mental states. Or WhatsApp cameras can actually be used to decode what a person is thinking. Filters that people use on places like Instagram enable decoding of not just like facial recognition, but facial emotional signals. And there have been some already class action lawsuits that have been brought against, for example, Facebook, where when a person is locked out of their account, increasingly they have to submit a video to show their liveness of their face. It's not just like a copy of their ID that they can submit. They have to literally submit a live video of them speaking or talking. And there's no telling what's happening with that data, right? Is that data being used to train models? Is that data being used to make mental inferences about the people? There's no clear information about what's being done with any of that data, which means every camera you walk past that is integrated with AI systems increasingly can decode mental states. And it raises this question of, where is the boundary between mental privacy and our everyday lives, and which technologies actually do cross that threshold? And if we are going to put into place any kind of safeguards, how broadly or how narrowly are we going to go so that we still enjoy innovation and the benefits of technology, but create a space, if one still exists, for mental privacy?
Right. So you're saying that the Meta has powerful AI systems in operation already, or could, that are trained on the human face, where they can see like a little twitch here, a little movement of the mouth here, and know that corresponds to a specific internal emotion.
They could,
potentially,
right? I don't know that they do.
Right. But you were saying also, though, that there are consumer products that are on the market now that are, we don't know if they're doing a version of that, but can track people's faces and potentially be making guesses about what's happening on the inside.
Yes. We already know that facial emotional recognition systems have been deployed in workplaces, in government settings. And the fact is that consumer apps can already do that. Do they do that? Do their privacy policies protect against it? Are they live using any of the images? None of that is stuff that we have access to or know right now. But for example, during the pandemic, Zoom had created this very quickly, incredibly unpopular feature where you could use a person's video and see whether or not they were actually paying attention or if their mind was wandering while they were on a video call. Yeah. You could see if they were switching between screens and if they were distracted. And they rolled this out for employers, and there was just a massive uproar as soon as they did, right? Of course, like, how many of us multitask while on Zoom calls? Almost all of us, right? And how many of us want our employers being able to use our cameras when they're on to be able to track whether we're distracted or paying attention, whether we're tired, whatever our emotional states are? Virtually no one, right? That feels incredibly intrusive and invasive. And that's what I'm getting at with this concept of cognitive liberty, which is, before now, we were limited in our capacity of mind reading by looking at each other, by making inferences about what other people are thinking. And that's something we all do as humans, right? One of the first capacities that come on board when you're a child is theory of mind. And once you learn theory of mind of another and learn that another person has a different mind than you do, you then gain the capacity to try to persuade them and manipulate them. In my book, I talk about my then 3-year-old who is like a master manipulator, who walks up to me when she's 3, has figured out how to manipulate, and says, Mommy, would I like a popsicle? And I correct her and I say, I don't know, Electra. Would you like a popsicle? And she says, oh, yes, Mommy, thank you. And I'm like, okay, I was totally just hoodwinked into that while I think that I'm, training her in English and she's training me in the art of master manipulation. But we all do that. But we were limited by our human capabilities of what we could actually infer from, even the best person at mind reading another person isn't truly able to decode what another person is thinking. And people work on perfecting this art and poker games of being able to maintain a perfect poker face. And, do you learn the tells of the other players? Technology is totally changing that, and is changing it in an asymmetrical way, because it's not likely that you and I sitting in a podcast studio are going to suddenly have technology where I can read what you're doing, unless I make you wear one of these headsets I'll tell you about in a minute. But, if you're an employee in a setting where an employer has asymmetric access to your brain activity data, even the staunchest libertarian will have a hard time defending that you have true freedom of contract in a setting like that, where they can literally see what you're thinking in response to a raise that they offer to you, or what your kind of negotiating position is in any setting.
Just for once, you're saying, given the current trajectory of the technology,
yes,
specifically that,
yes,
the idea that your employer could be able to guess with high levels of accuracy specific thoughts and emotions that are going through your brain,
yes,
is not some distant dystopian scientific fantasy, but could become a hard reality in the relatively short future?
It already is a hard reality. So right now, employers already across the globe have required people to wear headsets that track their brain activity, and they're not at the point yet where they can decode like your full thoughts. What they can decode is your reaction, your brain state reaction. Is it positive? Is it negative? Are you happy or sad? Are you tired? Is your mind wandering?
They can tell these things?
Yes, today. Yeah, already with the pretty, in many ways, rudimentary technology that's already on the market. And AI is making that more and more powerful every day, where the signal that can be extracted is becoming increasingly more powerful. And more importantly, the capacity to take that signal and meaningfully decode it with AI models is becoming increasingly more powerful. So yes, they can already do it. As these technologies become more widespread, where people, instead of having AirPods, have AirPods with EEG sensors in them that are issued by their workplace, or, instead of just having an inventory band that they wear on their wrist, or having an inventory band that is embedded with EMG sensors, electromyography sensors, more and more of that can be decoded by the employer or their educational institution if they're required to wear it in their classroom, which brings me to the headset that I could put on you right now to figure it out in this room. For a long time, there have been a lot of kind of entertainment neurotechnologies, and I say entertainment because they're incredibly limited in their functionality. They're not neural interface where instead of using a mouse and a keyboard, you use neural interface. They're use-specific technologies, like you put on an EEG headband, and the only thing you can do with it, because of the app that's powering it, is to see if you're in a meditative state. But there's a fun headset that I've long teased my students or audiences that I'm speaking at that I'm going to make them wear, which is this little headband that has cat ears at the top. And when you're paying attention, the cat ears are upright. And when you're starting to lose focus or your mind wanders, the cat ears come down. I feel like that would be awesome. Like I'd be like, hey, listen, why don't you put those on during this conversation?
Yeah.
And if you're starting to get bored with something I'm saying, I'm just going to have your tell, right? Or you're in class and you're not paying attention to me and it'll start to go down. That's the point in the talks usually when I'm like at a point where I'm talking about all the upside and all of the enhancements. And I get to this example of like, or we could do something really fun. And you kind of hear the air being sucked out of the room.
They see it, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, wait, I don't want you to be able to see that I've lost focus and I'm not paying attention. And that's when I say, right. So let's talk about the risks of brain transparency, because they're profound, right? We think we have this space where we can zone out or fantasize or be like, oh, wait, did I turn off the stove this morning? Right. And you want to be able to do that.